Sonic Movie and Equesria Girls Chapter 7, Make Amends. Flashback scene. It had only been a few months since Sonic and the gang first arrived here, as night had already fallen. Sonic was currently running around the city as usual with him humming to himself. However, this soon changed when he heard a voice coming from his hand as he ran up towards one of the concrete buildings before checking the small device that Tails had given him earlier.
What's up, little buddy? Did something happen?
Hey Sonic, I was just wondering if you could stop by somewhere. I still need some parts for some of my inventions, and that place last time you checked seemed to have the right parts. Mind checking one more time for me?
Sure, little buddy. Whatever gets me out of the little camp works for me.
Before Tails could reply back to Sonic once more, something had occurred that completely shut down the device that Sonic used to communicate with the yellow fox. Sonic was so caught off guard that he barely had enough time to react to the red shockwave that had pushed him slightly. Sonic was left speechless as he turned around to see where that had just came from, only to see that the sky had now appeared red, as if the night sky had intensity turned into a light shade of red.
Maybe I might have eaten way too many chili dogs.
Sonic had looked on once more to see what had caused this unusual situation, only to see 3 red glowing creatures floating in the sky. Each had the same facial features, with the only difference being the color of their skin. All 3 creatures shared another similar feature, that being that they glowed the exact same color as the new atmosphere. Judging by the distance and where they were supposedly floating in the air, Sonic could only assume that they appeared close to where.
Oh no, Sunset.
Immediately feeling that his friend was in danger, Sonic had leaped into the air before curling into a ball and spin dashing down the building he stood on before running as fast as he could. The blue energy that he had that was unique to his powers had begun to show as blue electricity began to flicker whenever he zoomed past the cars and poles in the street. As the blue hedgehog grew closer, he saw the same 3 creatures began to circle around something that he couldn't make out in the distance. This worried him even further, as began to run even faster as Sonic kept repeating something to himself.
Come on, come on, come on.
Sonic then began to hear the creatures scream as they echoed a red aura that sent shockwaves, which worried the blue hedgehog on what was happening. Luckily he had made it just in time near the area where he had thought Sunset would be in, as he saw a crowd of people standing in the middle between a stage and a small hill similar to his. From the corner of his eyes, he saw that on the stage were 3 girls who were floating in the air with their eyes glowing red. The blue hedgehog could only assume they were the ones causing this, as he was left flabbergasted on what was going on. The girls that were floating could only echo their voice, which resulted in the creatures in the sky to do the same. Sonic could only turn the other direction to see who were they attacking, only to see that the other group was already fallen from their aura, as Sonic could see a mic being sent flying in the air as it landed on the ground onto someone's feet. The blue hedgehog eyes had widened open as he saw it was no other than Sunset Shimmer, who picked it up as she stared nervously towards the creatures in front of her.
Sunset.
Sonic had tried calling out to her, but the distance she was away from his made it harder for his voice to reach her. Sonic's eyes began to glow blue as he was preparing to launch himself towards those creatures despite not knowing what was going on. Sonic had readied himself as he began charging himself with blue electricity, only for him to stop what he was doing after Sunset closed her eyes in fear. Before having a determined expression, Sonic watched in awe as she made her way in front of the group, as she then took off her jacket, which the wind had simply blown away before he heard music began to play.
You're never gonna bring me down. You're never gonna break this part of me. My friends are here to bring me round. Not singing just for popularity.
Another person, which he assumed that it was one of Sunset's friends, then began to sing along with her, her appearance being that of one who had wings and had what looked like pony ears.
We're here to let you know that we won't let it go.
The rest of group that was with her then began to stand up on their feet before playing on their instruments.
Our music is a bomb and it's about to blow. And you can try to fight, but we have got the light of friendship on our side.
As they sang, a white light had emerged from them before turning into a rainbow-colored shockwave that caught everyone's attention.
Got the music in our hearts. We're here to blow this thing apart. And together we will never be afraid of the dark.
After those words had been spoken, Sunset began to float in the air before a shiny golden light surrounded her as she began to transform. Sonic watched in awe as he saw that the same weird-looking pony ears suddenly appear on Sunset along with her hair now being longer.
Here to sing our song out loud, get you dancing with the crowd, as the music of our friendship survives.
That's when the rest of her friends began to float in the air as each one of them glowed their own separate colors which formed a rainbow as the aura coming from them flew upward towards the sky towards the clouds. Sonic watched as the dark clouds that the rainbow aura surrounded dissipated as he saw a pair of blue wings pop out.
The music in our hearts, we're here to blow this thing apart, and together we will never be afraid of the dark.
The crowd of people could only sing along with them.
Here to sing our song out loud, get you dancing with the crowd, as the music of our friendship survives.
That's when Sonic saw it. From the sky he could see that what they had formed looked like pony as its wings were as big as the eye could see with the color of its hair being the rainbow aura from before. He could also see the blue horn as it glowed a blue light before shining down a blue light which shined so bright that he had to cover his eyes. When the light had cleared, Sonic had opened his eyes to see that the sky had returned back to normal with no sign of those creatures that were floating in the air earlier. Sonic could only watch as Sunset and the others had celebrated their victory with Sonic being left completely speechless to what he saw. So many questions had now popped up in his mind that he felt like it wouldn't be answered.
What just happened? No, seriously? What the heck?
Later during the night, Sonic had waited for Sunset as he walked back and forward wondering what to do about this after learning the fact that she too wasn't someone ordinary.
What do I say? What do I ask? How do I even begin to wonder what to say to her?
Unfortunately for the blue hedgehog, he didn't have time to think about what to say as he heard the door open as Sunset walked out before sitting down on one of concrete stairs as she called out to him.
Sonic! Are you there?
Sonic quickly reacted, although by the sound of his voice sounded nervous.
Sunset, hell again.
Oh my gosh, I have so much to tell you about today.
Oh, that's nice to hear about.
Sunset could only notice the nervous tone that came from him as she looked up skeptically as she asked him.
Oh boy, what happened this time?
What? Are you kidding? What makes you say that?
Well, the tone of your voice is one thing, the second being that you sound guilty of something, so what is it this time?
Well, you see, I don't know how you would feel about this, but remember when I told you I didn't go to your school and everything?
Where's this going?
Alright, so I was just passing by the area when I kind of saw something from you that I don't think I was supposed to see.
And that being?
So, when did you start having powers like floating in the air and something magical flying on a corn to destroy 3 ugly creatures?
Just like that, an awkward silence soon followed as it took a full minute for Sunset to process what he had said before her calm expression changed into one of panic.
Oh my gosh, how much did you see?
Enough to see that you're not no ordinary human.
Sunset then began to breath heavily, which didn't go unnoticed by Sonic, who didn't want her to freak out about this.
Hey, but there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's pretty cool that you stood up to those creatures like that.
You don't get it. You weren't supposed to know about this.
That's an oops on my part, sorry. I didn't mean to see, it's just that the sky had turned red and I noticed that it was near the area you were staying in, so I got worried and ran over, and that's when I saw everything.
Despite the overwhelming feeling of fear of nervousness, Sunset began to settle down as it was only a matter of time before he would know about something like this. Sunset could only sigh in defeat before her voice became soft yet depressing.
You don't think differently of me now that you know, right?
What? Of course not. What you did back there was super cool. The way you took off your jacket to sing and showed those monsters whose boss didn't know you had that in you, Sunset.
Sunset could only smile after hearing his words as the fear of scaring him away was out the window. She could only rub her arm shyly before looking the other way.
It wasn't that amazing.
Are you kidding? You literally were like the best singer there. You came out of your shell and used your magical powers to summon a freaking god pony-like creature to literally obliterate those things.
Although Sunset couldn't help but enjoy the little compliments that Sonic was giving her, she knew that it was more than what she deserved. Especially after that happened after the fall formal.
Okay, enough with the compliments. You're gonna make me laugh.
Knowing me, don't count on it.
Before Sonic could do anything else, a question popped up in his mind that he wanted to ask her. Something that made him even more curious about Sunset due to the fact that if what he thought was true, she and him might have more things in common.
Hey, if you don't mind me asking, since you have magic powers and everything, do you come from another place, like another world maybe?
Sunset could only stay silent for a minute before sighing as she say no point in hiding anything from him after he learned about all this.
Yes, I come from a world called Equestria. Unlike most of my friends here, I'm not exactly a human. Well, in this world I am, but back where I'm from I'm a honey.
An image of what Sunset may look like as one appeared in Sonic's mind as he tried his best to believe this information even when it seemed unbelievable at best. One of his best friends was a pony from another world. Yeah, he didn't know what to think about that.
Look, I know it sounds unbelievable, but
No, I see girls with wings and pony ears sticking out of them while they summon a pony god in the sky, and that doesn't sound too crazy.
Although Sunset was sharing this information to him, she was careful with her words due to the fact that a part of her was scared to tell him about all the things she did in the past. Maybe it was thought that if she told him every atrocious act she had committed that he would think differently of her. So coming out with some part of the truth, Sunset explained some things that were true due to her own fear and the feeling of not being ready to tell him about her old self.
I used a portal back in my world to come into this one. Although the old me from before had made mistake that caused many people to hate me. But I had a pretty good friend that helped me climb back up to my feet, and during the battle with those sirens is when I felt like everyone started to accept me.
Sonic had sensed there was more to this than what she explained, but felt that she wasn't ready to tell him just yet. Although he wanted to know, it seemed unfair to him since he had his own secrets that he didn't even bother to share with her.
I'm glad you were able to change and use those powers for good, Sunset, and I'm proud that you climbed back up and decided to become a better person.
Despite Sonic's words, Sunset still felt some doubt about what he told her. Almost everyone besides Princess Twilight had hated her at one point, and although Sonic was the first to have befriended her, her own doubts and insecurities made her believe that if Sonic had met the old her from before, would he have been just like the others where he would want nothing to do with her anymore. Those thoughts would haunt her for a while despite her telling him almost everything about herself. To lighten up the mood, the blue hedgehog could only laugh while trying to crack a joke.
So, does that mean that old boyfriend of yours was dating a pony? Does he have a thing for pony now, turned human girls now?
A blush formed on Sunset's face from embarrassment.
Sonic.
What? You never thought of it? You never thought of it?
Despite feeling embarrassed, she could feel sigh before smiling once she heard Sonic laughing, as a couple seconds later, she too laughed as well. Despite everything that's been said, moments like these make her appreciate Sonic as her friend.
Someone telling me how magic suddenly works in the world you come from.
Really? You're asking a history lesson from me? Aren't you the type to get bored easily when someone tells you a boring story?
I won't consider this boring. We're dealing with ponies that have magic, which sounds like it comes from a cool adventure story for kids. I promise I won't fall asleep. Maybe.
Alright then. Let's see here. How about I start with the magic that my friends had during the Battle of the Bands, the elements of harmony.
Oh, you tell?
Present day, as the sun had finally set with the rooster making its usual noise to wake everyone up, Sunset Shimmer would be the first to wake up out of the girls. She could only slowly get up from the ground as she saw the others sleeping peacefully, the only missing being Sonic. Out of curiosity, she got up from her bed to look for the blue hedgehog as he walked around the house to try and find where he was at. To her surprise, he wasn't in any of the rooms, as she could only wonder where the blue hedgehog had went as she scratched behind her head in disbelief before seeing a blue light coming from one of the rooms. Knowing that there couldn't be any other explanation to who could have been in that room, she quietly walked over to see Sonic kneeling on his legs as he took out small map, which glowed blue in color. The Equestria girl could only wonder what the blue hedgehog was doing, as to her shock she saw a blue light form in front of him. The light then revealed itself to an owl warrior as she spoke to Sonic.
Hello Sonic, if you're watching this, then something has happened to me, and I pray that you've made it to Earth unharmed. This world has been chosen for a very important reason. It's the secret location of the Master Emerald. The emerald has the power to turn thoughts into reality. In the wrong hands, it could threaten all life in the universe. Protecting the emerald was my secret duty, and now I must pass that responsibility to you. Follow the map, find the emerald, and keep it safe.
Sunset Shimmer couldn't believe she was seeing as she could lean in to see more.
My dear Sonic, you have a heart like no creature I've known. I love you so much, goodbye.
The light then disappeared along with Longclaw as Sonic stood motionless as he held the remaining blue feather before it faded it away. Without a second thought, Sonic could only speak in desperation as if he needed someone to talk to.
I don't know if I could keep your promise, Longclaw. Sometimes it just feel like it's all too much for me. Eggman is back with another hedgehog. I put my friends in harm's way, and worst of all, one of my closest friends now hate me. I don't know what to do. I wish you were still here to guide me.
Sunset Shimmer could only look at the blue hedgehog with sympathy as she tried taking a step back, feeling this was invading his privacy. However, this would prove to be a mistake as stepped on something chasing her to slip back, causing a noise to be heard. Sonic looked back to see Sunset Shimmer getting back to her feet as she looked at him with an awkward smile, knowing she was caught. Sonic turned the other way to face her as he slowly stood up.
Sunset, what are you doing here?
Sunset Shimmer knew at that moment that this was the time to come clean and talk things out, as she could only walk towards him before stopping a few feet away from him while crossing her arms.
I think it's time we talk things out between us.
Okay, well, what did you want to talk about?
First things first, when you first got here, how'd you find me and why me, out of all people?
Well, at first I was just looking around to see where me and the others were at. I didn't realize we were transported here from another world until after I visited you. I was just exploring the city, and to my surprise I found you crying outside of your house at night.
Then why did you do it? Why did you help me that night?
Because I couldn't leave knowing that someone was in pain. That night you reminded me how when I first came to Earth in my dimension, I couldn't just let you go through that alone. Someone once told me that being a hero isn't about taking care of yourself, but taking responsibility for other people. I stayed because I wanted to help you when you needed a friend.
So that's why you stayed that night. You genuinely wanted to help me.
Why would I?
Because I thought you were doing it out of pity. Months after we first met, each time we had conversation that involved getting to know each other better, you always ended up changing the subject. Even when I brought up meeting you in person, you would come up with some excuse to avoid that situation. I guess what I'm trying to say is, a part me wonders if you were ever going to tell it at some point about who you really were. Or were just waiting to go back to your dimension and pretend like nothing ever happened. Did you really just plan on leaving without me knowing?
Sonic looked up to see Sunset Shimmer looking away sadly as he looked back down shamefully, knowing that at first, that's what he was planning on doing. However, he soon felt regret knowing that he completely disregarded how Sunset Shimmer would feel about the whole situation.
I won't lie to you when I say that I wasn't planning on telling you, and if it weren't for Robotic, I don't think I would have the courage to either. Sunset thought it would better that way because I didn't know if you would accept me for who I am. All my life I've been hunted down for my power. Even the humans in my world are still trying to hunt me down. I've only know a few humans who were kind to me, that being my parents back at Green Hill. The rest, not so much. I guess deep down I was scared that once you found out who I really was, you would turn away from me.
You didn't think I would accept you for who you are, Sonic. I've literally told you we had a talking dog and princess that came from another world. What part of that makes you think I wouldn't find it too weird?
I just thought it would probably be better if I played it safe and kept my distance. Besides, I kinda forget the things you say sometimes. You talk a lot when you're explaining stuff.
I do not.
Sonic could only chuckle as Sunset could only look at the blue hedgehog with annoyance before sighing. Since Sonic had pretty revealed everything about himself, it was now her turn. But was she really ready to tell him about the fall formal? Sonic had noticed the uncomfortable look on her face as he knew that she too wanted to tell him something, but by her expression it looked as if she wasn't ready to just yet.